All right,
Hello,
good. Oh, I know this is like the part about virtual meetings, eh, Lucia?
it sure is. Well, we will be starting momentarily. Just wait for another couple of minutes for more folks to join. Thanks for your patience.
All right, it's 10:01. Lucia, what do you think? Should we get started?
Sounds good. I'm excited to get started. So, yes, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Lucia from Function Point, and we're live with you today from Vancouver, Canada, where my co host lives, Jimmy Wu, Director of Sales and Marketing from Function Point. Good morning, Jimmy.
Hey, good morning or good afternoon to some of you, or even evening if that's the case. Um, so great to have so many people. I see we have a lot of people joining today. I'm very excited. Thank you all for coming in today.
So amazing to see everyone there. Well, before we dive in, just to let everyone know, we have started to record the session. And now that we've done a quick intro, which we will talk a little bit more about ourselves in a moment, but we'd like to hear about you as well. So we're going to launch our first poll to learn more about your role. So you should see a poll on your screen. If you could please let us know a bit about yourself there. And while you're doing that, a few things for you to know about the session. If you have any questions during the presentation, just write them in the questions section in the GoToWebinar control panel. We'll have short breaks during the presentation and a Q&A session at the end to answer your questions. And afterwards, we will be sending the recorded session for viewing, and a link will be emailed out, so you can always find all of our webinars too on our FP support site. Now, let's take a look at what some of our folks here have responded as far as where they are from. I'm just going to do a quick share there. Wow, lots of project and traffic managers, accountant creatives, finance accounting, head of creative, and owners. Wonderful. All right, well, let's get back to our introductions. I'm just going to close that out there. So back to our introduction. So as our customers know, Function Point's aim is to help simplify the business side of creative agencies so that you can focus on what you do best, which is being creative. So, and we accomplish this with an all-in-one tool that starts and ends with Function Point. So this includes CRM, estimating, project management, tasking, invoicing, and many others. And today we are so excited to launch a built-in proofing tool to help simplify your design, task management, approvals, and client communications. So Jimmy will be leading us through showing everyone the solution today.
Sounds good. But before we get started, Lucia, this is actually the first time a lot of our customers are actually meeting you and being the new director of customer experience at Function Point. Maybe help us get to know you a little bit. Maybe an interesting fact about yourself, or what's one thing you like to, a message you like to all of our current and future FP customers to know.
Well, I am an owner of one of these pandemic puppies. It's a white Yorkshire Terrier named Max. So he keeps me busy when I'm not busy with Function Point or my family. Um, but so for my role as Director of Customer Experience, my team are the frontline customer success managers and the support team that a lot of our customers deal with every day. And just like to know, like the customers to know that my team and I are seeking to better understand your journey with us, your journey in the role you play, and what your needs are, so that we can better understand how to assist you and provide a smoother and the best experience possible in working with you, and just help you guide you through using Function Point and hopefully to bring you value. I really encourage you to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn, which we'll have on this deck, and or you could try contact me through the success email as well. You can definitely reach me there too. So yeah, that's me, Jimmy, and
Well,
I
thank you.
am
Yeah.
super curious.
Thanks for being put on the spot, by the way.
I tried to be a team player. Yeah, so I'm super curious. I'm sure everyone on the webinar is curious too, to see the new proofing capabilities and how it can help them. And maybe we can even get more real-time feedback from our customers in the audience with some more polls later today. So Jimmy, can we jump into what our agenda is going to be today?
Yeah, for sure. So before we start, just real quick again, we are recording this video. We will share the deck, the recording, the support documents afterwards with you. And in your GoToWebinar control panel, there is a questions module. So if you want to open that up and ask, feel free to ask questions anytime during the webinar. As for the agenda, so we're going to first talk about what is proofing, why it is important for agencies, how proofing will change the workflow and how you collaborate on designs inside Function Point. And then we'll actually dive into the program. So we'll spend the bulk of our time here. And we'll give you a sneak peek as well on what's next on FP's product roadmap. So before we start, I thought this was really funny. I think all agencies can relate. So when you get a client email asking for more revisions, whether you're on revision number 1 or revision number 10, at times you're just like, seriously, another revision? Come on. So that's where proofing comes into play. Kind of the top 3 things, a lot of from statistics perspective, 2/3 of the agencies find that communications is one of the biggest barriers to productivity, and proofing and getting design feedback is going to be definitely one of them. A lot of the project delays are due to clients missing the deadline. So I'm sure you probably saw this in your email inbox today from a client saying, oh yeah, shoot, sorry, I forgot to review the design. I'll get to that later today. And then that goes back and forth, and you get a few of those before the feedback comes back. And then there's also just over a third of the agencies find that the clients don't provide accurate design feedback. So their feedback is generic. You're like, hey, can we change this colors to blue? It's like, okay, do you want sky blue, light blue, dark blue, navy blue? What type of blue are we talking about, right? So this is why Function Point, being an all-in-one solution, we wanted to include now proofing as part of the all-in-one package. So for those of you who are hearing proofing for the first time, proofing is essentially a method for us to digitally get design feedback, whether it's video, audio, text, from the customers or from other people from your internal team, and being able to mark up directly on the design files. Okay. So with Function Point's proofing tool, the 4 key things is number 1 thing is actually automated reminders. In Function Point, once you set up the different approvers, you can speed up the approval process. You don't have to worry about, hey, did I email that? Am I emailing them too much? You can customize the frequency. Function Point will send those reminders to your approvers automatically. You do get that markup tool right on the proof, whether it's rectangles, you can do arrows, you can do point and click. And then of course there's comment threads. So let's say you're collaborating on one of the feedback, you can go back and forth between different individuals. And as you go back and forth between those feedback, you can actually resolve the comment thread as well. And in those comment threads, you can even mention others. This includes your internal team as well as clients. And what that does is it basically that will ensure if it's the client, they will actually get an automated reminder as well or notification related to that thread. So how function point manages this is previously, if you are using tasking and managing your proofs and designs inside function point approvals, how it looks like would be you might have the job, and within it, you're going to use the schedule and task to manage that. So you might have a design task, you're going to have another task to track the first revision, second revision. You might even have a separate task to track the client approval as well. And within each of these tasks, you might have the version 1, version 2, version 3 of the files. So it's a very linear relationship, and it's not really consolidated. They're not residing with each other. They're not centralized from the design and approval perspective. So with proofing, this workflow will now change. So you might have a logo job with a task to create the design. And then once you finish the design, you can now create a proof within it. And within the proof, you can track different versioning. So version 1, version 2. So the key here is you do not need 4 tasks, 5 tasks to track the revision task, to track the client approval or internal approval stages. They will all now reside within the proof, which resides under a task. Okay, so enough about that. Let's go ahead. I'm sure people are excited to kind of take a look at what that looks like. So let's go into my function point system. So with the proofing tool, you'll need the proper permissions. I will foreshadow that this is an optional add-on. This is going to be an add-on module for within our system. But however, we are providing a 2-week free trial as well. So let's jump in. So I mentioned that the proof resides within a task. So to access proof, you do need the permissions to access proofs, but also permissions to access tasks as well. So I have a task here called logo design for little creators. So let's say I finish creating the design and I want to have internal team and external team approve this. All I would do is click into the task. Inside the task itself, there's now a new tab called proofs. When we go into the proofs, I can now go ahead and add that proof. So there are 3 stages when creating a proof. The first stage is to upload the file. So I'm going to give this a name, logo design approval. The due date is the date you want the client to approve by. So maybe I want the client to approve this by Friday in order to meet the job's deadline. I can now upload the files. So in function point, we do support for our proof, we will be able to support pretty much the most common image files, PNG, JPEG. We do support docs and PDFs, as well as video and audio files, so MP4s, MP3, WAV files, etc. But let's go ahead and upload a couple of the files here. I'm going to focus on a design file for today. Now, once you upload the files, you can set up different proof settings. So for example, you can allow the approvers to download, view other people's comment. I personally like the approver to view all comments because this allows, if you have multiple approvers on the client side with, they can each see others' comments so that they collaborate together and don't have to be like, hey, what did Bob say about this design? Okay, so it centralized that for you. I also like the allow approval with changes. This works great, especially for simple designs like logos, where you're now really in version 2 and you don't want more back and forth. So So it's a really good way to cut down on the time. But once we upload the files, you will now be taken to the proof page. So in the proof page, I can see the design, the files that I've uploaded on the left here. And if you have multiple, you can go left and right for it. I can see that it hasn't started and I have not added any approvers yet. So let's go ahead and add approvers. So to add approvers inside function for the proof, we go into the edit workflow option. So this is this is going to be a really interesting part, especially with the approvers part. You can set different stages. So what the stages means is, think of this like a dependencies for your approvers. So you can have an internal stage for stage 1, for example. Internal approval stage, and I might add people such as Lucia on here. And if Lucia is in contact that resides in your function point system, it's going to pull that for you. And maybe I want to add myself on here as an approver.
Hey, Jimmy, and there's a related question to this, just to confirm. Can we, the client doesn't have to have function point, right? They can be an external client?
That's correct. So they do not need to be a user. So if I know I want someone else to approve it, I can simply type in their email address as an approver. And it will default to remind them on every day, but however, you can adjust this. And I'll go through how you can adjust setting up the reminder frequencies. So I've now added 3 different approvers, and I can now set the message for the approval. So this is the templated default message that comes with the system. However, you can set up different templates. So I might have a template created so you can see it just populates for me. So I've now finished setting up the internal approval stage. However, I want to have it so that if everyone on the internal team approves it, I want to automatically send this off to the client for approval. So I can add a second stage where it's stage 2, client approval. And I'm gonna go ahead and add their email in here. And once again, I can select the different templates as my email message. So I've now included my approvers and also set the workflow for how it's going to be approved with an internal approval stage first. That includes Lucia, Jimmy, and then it will trigger to the client approval to info@littlecreators.ca. Now, keep in mind, if this is a long-term clients that you regularly deal with, feel free to save that as a workflow. So you don't have to always re-enter the approvers. Right? So it will just pull these different stages and approvers in there. So that's how you would add the approvers and set up your approval stages and workflow. So let's go ahead and save that. And once I save, you can see right now I have 3 decisions, and in the approval stages here, I can see the internal approval stage with the 3 individuals telling me it hasn't started, and stage 2 for the client approval. Okay. So Lucia, I have to admit, this is the first time we're doing a webinar together, and sometimes I go too fast. So curious if there are questions that I can assist with before we go into the actual markup of the proof.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, there's been a number of them, and there's more coming in right now. One question was about the file size limit, concerned about video files that are too large.
That is a great question. So with proofs, with video files, we do support up to 2 GB per file for proofs. So it should definitely accommodate most of the video files. And furthermore, it is unlimited file storage for proofs after that. Keep in mind though, for proofs, we do we will keep it for up to 2 years. So after 2 years, the proof file will be deleted. Okay, so you should keep the final copy somewhere. Okay.
Great, that's great. Let's see, we have a couple of questions around multi-page documents. One question is, we have a client with multi-page documents who gives a lot of edits or tons of edits, and we typically get a markup PDF. Is that an option here?
Yes, you definitely can have multi-page, and thank you for bringing that up. You know what I'll do is I will go through the first round of the approval, and then I'll show you how to add a new version, and then with the new version, I'll select a PDF that is multi-page so that everyone can see how that works. Okay. So let's keep going here then. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the approval process, and when I click this, then all the individuals in my first stage will now get an email reminder, okay, email alert notification. So going into my inbox, am I in the right inbox? Let me check. Yep. Okay, here we go. So I can see that there are 2 emails. One is from the client side and one is for your internal user side. So as an internal user, you can get an alert that an approval proof approval has started. But let's go ahead and see what it looks like from the client side. So from the client side, you can white label this with your logo so they know it's coming from you. Here's the email that we had and with the link to review. So when I click on review now, it's going to open it up. Now keep in mind that right now you're looking at it from a desktop version, but this is mobile friendly and it will scale to mobile phones. So taking a look here, when they first come in, it's actually going to do a quick tour so you can see, hey, this to help them understand how to go ahead and approve this. Okay, so the walkthrough is pretty straightforward. You can see the files to review on the right-hand side. And of course, the instructions of whether to submit decisions at the top. Okay. So let's take a look at how we can mark up. So I got 2 files here. I'm looking at the first file, but if I can go to the other file if I wish. I can just do a click and comment. So maybe this bunny looks sad. Can we have happy bunnies, please? I can also have a rectangle if I wanted to, or draw an arrow. So I might say a cross arm doesn't give good feeling to parents. So I can continue the comments if I wish, and I can go to file 2 and do the same thing. Let's say, oh, maybe I'm gonna do an arrow this time. No angry bunnies, please. So that's how you would go in and create different comments as an individual. And you can add other people like we mentioned before. So for example, if I can say at Lucia, what are your thoughts? Well, there we go, and then click save. So that's how you would be able to, how your clients or your approvers would be able to mark up on the comments. And they can now submit a decision on whether it's approved or not approved. So I can approve for each individual files here. So I'm going to go not approved. Submit. Okay. Now, once you can get an alert once someone approves or makes a decision on the proof. So going back to the proof itself, I can see that the status of this proof is not approved, and I got feedback from Jimmy that says not approved. And if I want to take a look at Jimmy's comment, I would just click on this open proof. This would open up the proof from my own perspective, okay, as an internal function point user. So you can see I'm now the administrator here. And I can just go into each file and click on the comment to see the details. And as an administrator, you can see that there's an option to resolve comments. Okay, I understand. We will adjust in next version. Okay, we'll save that comment and then we'll mark it as resolved so that everyone knows. Okay. All right, so before we go to versioning, I'm guessing there's going to be quite a bit of questions. Yeah, maybe we'll take a couple and then we'll go to versioning next.
Yes, yes. A question about the notifications, back to notifications. Will all the job contacts receive the email notifications or only the approvers you designate?
So great question. So let's take a look at the alert settings here. So in the alert settings, you can get approve. Oh, I need to go to my own and actual staff. Oh, keep clicking on Gina here. So this is just released. I have not memorized the alert subscription settings yet. So that's why I'm going in here, folks. So you can see that you can get alerts when proofs are created, completed, or awaiting review. And yes, you are able to make it so that you only get alerted if you are a job contact. Good question. Any other question?
Great. Yes, there's lots of questions. Can you view the two layout options side by side?
That is going to be a common question. So this is the first iteration of our proofing tool. So unfortunately, you are not able to have side-by-side comparison as of now. That is part of our roadmap, and we're looking to gather feedback. So if that is very important to you, please, as you try it out, please let us know, submit that in the AHA portal. Once again, it's under the question mark here, and then there's a submit an idea. This is an idea that we've already documented. However, we're looking at potentially mid 2022. That's a roadmap.
That's great. What are the file types supported? Someone asked, like, say, for example, PowerPoint. Does it support that?
I don't believe it supports PowerPoint currently. However, it does support quite a few file types. So in our follow-up documentation, it is in our help center. We do have an article that talks about, that will list out every single file type that is available, and we'll make sure to include that in the follow-up email to everyone, because there's quite a bit for me to list them all out at this the webinar.
That's great. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so let's talk about versioning. So I know I didn't get approval. So let's go ahead and add a new version for the client to approve. So I'm going to go ahead, click on add new version. And when you add a new version, you can say, we're adding a new version for this internal approval stage. And we're going to send it to every single approver on this stage. And once again, I can select the email template message I want to have, and you can make adjustments, of course. And now upload the files. So I'm going to upload and we talked about maybe uploading a PDF with multi-pages. So let's do that. Let's see if I can find a nice PDF. Okay, here we go. Once I click done, then I will have a note that when you add a new version, just give it about 2 seconds for the system to process, for the internet to talk to itself, and then it will refresh. So if you're quick with the system, just give it about 2 seconds to load it. So now the page will refresh, letting me know that I'm now on version 2, and I once again have 0 out of the 3 people approved. Now the individuals would now get an alert via the email. Okay, which is going to come on here. Okay, and you can see approval needed for the design is now on here again. Now, secondly, if you have a new approver, another way to send the approval link to your to people is the button here. You can just copy the approver link. So if you share this, and individuals that paste this into their browser will now be able to give feedback on the proof. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go into incognito mode here. So the system will recognize I am now a new user, and I can put in my information. So for example, I'm gonna do boss, Tony Stark, Tony.Stark. Okay. So Tony Stark is now added as a new approver in the system. Again, I get the tour and I can see the files. So I have the new file and I have also the PDF. So if it is a multi-page PDF, no, there is now an option to view the different pages. So I'm on page 1 right now. I can go to page 2, page 3, etc. And then I can make comments and such to it. If they ever want to go back to the previous version, there is the option at the top here. So I can go to version 1 to see what the comments were from my previous versions. So one way to look at it side by side, if you're on a desktop, I like to say is just duplicate the tab and have two tabs. So you can have one tab showing version 1 and another tab showing version 2. So let's say I've given all my comments, or this looks really good. I can now submit a decision and say I'm going to approve everything. Great. You are approved. Okay, go ahead and submit that decision. So once it's been approved, again, inside function point, you're now going to see the decision is now 1 out of the 4. So we have the one person that approved, Tony Stark, and also we've added a new approver in Tony Stark. So that's why hence the 4. So to trigger to the next stage of the client approval, we do need every individual on here to approve before it can move on to the next stage. But that is how you would be able to send, add new versions, being able to share the approval links, give comments, feedbacks, etc. And that is the proofing at a very high level glance. So
yeah, why don't we get back to some of these questions while you're talking about the workflow? There was a question here around that. In the workflow, can the document go to only one approver at a time?
Can the document go to one approver at a time? Okay. So I guess my follow-up question would be, so I guess you want different people to approve one after another for you to say, in this scenario is my guess. So you can give it to one approver at a time. If you know the order that you need to give it to them, then I would recommend that you have multi-stage. What happens is each of your stage would just have one approver, and then it just triggers to the next person automatically. Now, if you don't want it to automatically trigger, not a problem. What's going to happen then is once it's approved, you would need to either go back in to edit the workflow and add a new stage with a new approver, or you can create it as a new proof within the same task. So both ways work.
That sounds good, Jimmy. Another question here, can the clients download the files directly to their computer?
Great question. Yes, you can set up the proof so that there is an option to allow download of the original file. So you can set it up so that perhaps at the end of once everyone's approved, you can then go and change the proof setting to allow download, and they'll be able to download it.
That's great. That's great amount of control. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, this one's interesting. When marking up a copy text area, is there a highlighting tool that can recognize the copy areas for easy cut and paste copy revision comments?
Yeah, good question. So that this is regarding text, any files with text in it. So currently, this proofing tool does treat everything as an image, including text. So while we don't have the highlighting option, my suggestion is to use the square to highlight if you want to highlight a specific section of the words. So using the rectangle option, like that. Say change to creativity. Okay.
That's cool. When the client receives the email alert, is there a way to show the job name?
When they receive the email alert, you would like to show the job name. That is a great question. I am not 100% sure if it is possible, but I really like that suggestion. I do know in the previous version it actually shows it. So let me double check on that with the developers. I really like that feedback actually. So let me make a note on that. It doesn't look like it is. It does show that currently. But what you can do is in the email message, so in the email message, you can insert the job name right on here in the email message. But however, I see where you're coming from, so we'll put that as a feedback for sure.
That's great. Someone asked, can a proof exist not in a task? I don't know if you've had this question before, Jermaine. I feel like we talked about it before.
Yeah, this was actually discussed and talked about quite a bit, is whether we want to allow proofs to reside outside of a task. So we did make a conscious decision to have proofs reside within a task inside function point. So that as it just made sense if a designer's been assigned a task. So the short answer is the proof does need to reside within a task. If you currently don't use our task management tool, not a problem. What I would suggest is in your tasks and to-do list, inside function points task and to-do, you can just create a quick task first, which is on the top right of your task and to-do list, and say design proof task. Allocate it to the job you want. Hit submit. And the task is now created and you can go in and create the proof. It's one extra step. However, it does need to, I highly encourage you to use function point for your tasking, but if you don't, or if you don't need to do task management, then this is the fastest way to do it.
Great. Well, lots of questions here. Is there a plan to expand the markup types, or will it only be the 3 options?
Currently, it is the 3 options for the markup types: click, rectangle, and arrow. We'd be totally open to suggestions on what other markup types there are. Our research just showed that these 3 are the most common ones and asked for. But please do, again, please do submit these ideas. This is the first iteration, so I know our product manager was like, hey, make sure you ask for feedback from everyone. We do want that under the submit an idea portal here.
Great. I'm not sure how our timing is. Do we still have time for a couple more before you move on to the next part of our presentation here?
Yeah, I think we have time for a couple more.
Great, great. Here's one we haven't really touched on. Is there a way to track time directly to the proof for the viewing process internally?
Good question. So that's also part of the reason why we put it on the proof as part of the task, because this will allow you to track time directly on the task. So short answer, no, you can't track time directly to the proof. You would track time to the task of that proof.
Ah, of course, of course. That makes sense. I think there were a couple people that asked something similar to this. Can you view all of the pending proofs in one place, similar to a task dashboard?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways you can do that. In your tasks and to-do list, there is a filter that will show all tasks that has a proof. So you can see I have these, some are my 2 tasks with proofs, and you can drill into the details afterwards. The other option is there is a proof menu up top, okay? So this will get updated a little bit more in a couple weeks from now, but right now you can say I want to look for proofs with certain due dates and different filters. So I'm going to go ahead and find all the proofs in my system. And you can now see I have 3 proofs that exist in the system. Yeah. We will be making one more tweak to this view, so that you can show more information on here. But currently, this is the area to be able to see all the proofs in the system. Yeah.
Great. Another upload question. Can the client upload a marked up PDF if there are extensive changes?
A marked up PDF. No, unfortunately, not directly to the proof. The idea of the proof is so that the client is using the system and that it is saved within the proofing tool, and there's historical so that they avoid emails and such, so that it's all consolidated. So no, it does not have the ability for clients to upload. No. Okay.
Fantastic. Will this integrate into an existing schedule? So you have a template schedule you see, and then you want to utilize the proofing system. Will it create a task into the existing schedule?
So if you do use a schedule template, the task can be templated out. However, the proof on the task will be templated out as the workflow. Okay, so it won't automatically create the proof for you within that task. You do have to go in and create the proof. It's the template of the workflow and the email messaging that can be templated. The reason for that is because in order to create the proof, we need the file associated to that task. So that's why you do go in and create that proof, and the designer or the project manager with the file will go in and upload that.
In a multiple page document with updates appearing on many pages, what does the report look like that the design team refers to?
So this is from my understanding of that question is for your internal team, right? So your internal staff, how they would be able to see all the comments and feedback from that proof. So instead of using for your internal team to view, do not use the approver link because that will treat you as an approver and add you to the approver. So what you would use is this open proof link. And when I click this open proof link, I'm just logged in as an administrator here, and you will be able to go into each file and toggle the comments on the bottom here. Okay. So you would use this link to track all of your feedback.
Great. Oh, here's a good one. Can you mark a proof as approved, not approved on someone else's behalf? So if they're suddenly not available, can someone else approve on their behalf?
No, you can't approve on another person's behalf unless you have their email or their login. But that said, you can remove them from the proofing workflow instead.
I see. Okay.
Cool. Okay. So in lieu of time, Lucia, if you don't mind, I'm going to show one last thing in terms of administrative on the proofs. And then if we have time towards the end of the hour, we can do more Q&A.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay. So earlier I talked about managing proof settings, so kind of a proof frequency, the workflow, the reminder templates. So under the proofing tab, there is an option to manage proof settings. So this is where if you have any workflows that you accidentally created, you can go ahead and delete them. Same thing with the reminder email templates. So you can take a look at what the emails are, and delete them if you don't need them anymore. But in terms of frequencies of the reminder, it's under the approvers here. So once you add them as an approver, they're gonna show up on this tab here, and you can see the notifications, and you can just select and deselect which days you want the reminders to be sent to them. Okay. And then in the future, it'll apply that to all future proofs where you add that approver. So that's the administrative part. So we have about 15 minutes left here. I just want to go through a couple things that can happen, and then we'll come back to the Q&A if that's okay with you, Lucia.
Sounds good.
Okay. So, by the way, there's so many questions. I love it. This is great. So one of the things is getting your hands on the proofing. So like I mentioned earlier, this is an add-on module. However, you do have the opportunity to sign up for a 2-week free trial. And the link is on the screen. It's just functionpoint.com/proofing-free-trial. I will say, please note that once you register for the proofing trial, the 2-week free trial does apply to the entire agency. Okay, so it's not on an individual basis. When it's activated, it will activate for your entire function point system to all users. One other thing is make sure once your free trial is activated, you will need to add proofing as a permission so that they can access it. So you need an administrator of your system to add that in to the users that you want to test out or try proofing with. And of course, create your first proof once it's activated. I recommend doing it with your internal team first or doing it with your own personal email before you involve any customers. And then of course, set up the automated reminders. So when you create a proof on day one, take a look, set up the automated reminders. I have it every day for myself so that you can see what that looks like and what it would look like for your clients as well. So I promised also earlier to take a look at the roadmap. So I wanted to give everyone a sneak peek. We've been working on the proofing. We had the Kanban board view earlier, end of last year, and we had made updates and improvements to our resource work planning view early 2020. So what's coming up next is API. So we're gonna do what's called a REST API and GraphQL production. And what essentially our first step with the REST API is we're gonna likely integrate with third tools such as Zapier. If anyone's heard of Zapier, it's like a bridge between multiple systems. So that's our next priority. And then after that, we'll be looking at improving our retainer management and PO management. Outside of the system, we're also going to look at a new project for a community. So there's a lot of feedback from many of you asking, hey, is there a place where I can ask about how other agencies are using Function Point? How are they doing certain things? So we do want to create a community so that everyone can collaborate together. So that's our roadmap. Hope that gives you a sneak peek. And to wrap things up before we go to final Q&A is, I thought this was funny, is proofing is really going to help you speed up your approval process. And I like to say, happiness is when designs get approved. Okay, I think hopefully we can all relate to that.
That's really cool, Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy, we also have a couple of polls that we had we were wanting to engage our audience here with. Do you want to run one of them right now?
Sure. I'd be curious to hear, now that you've taken a look at function points proofing, what do you think would be the biggest value to you for your agency with the proof? So I'm going to launch the poll and maybe give it a minute for everyone here. And it is a multi-select.
Yeah, while they do that, we can probably answer one of these questions. There's so many. I'm not too sure, Jimmy, if you want to see if there's any that kind of you think may be very good. And for the ones that we don't get back to, because there are quite a few, we'll figure out how we can get some feedback for everyone that's on the webinar afterwards, I mean.
Okay, let's take a look. So this question is from Christina. I understand the workflow setup for a linear review process, but do they have to approve to get to the next stage to start? Yes, so in order for the proof workflow to go to the move on to the next stage, you will need, all the approvers does need to approve in order to move on to the next stage. Okay. And if someone is stuck, you will just need to remove them from the approval stage. Okay. So this question's from Andy. Are all people on proof approvers? If we have one person who the decision is final, is it possible to move to the next stage before everyone else's approves? So if you do, again, similar to question to Christina's, the system does need everyone to approve in order to move on to the next stage. So you would need to remove the others from the approval process if that's the case. Okay. Does proofing show up in your task list? That was one of the questions we had from Beth. So I'm gonna close the poll now so everyone can hopefully see my screen. It does sound like most of the people from a result like the approval stages, the markup and the collaboration, and just being able to make your task and proof management easier. I personally thought the automated reminder is my number one value to proofing. Okay, but let's take a look at how to take a look at all the proofs. So once again, in your tasks and to-do list, there is a filter in the dropdown. It is actually located at the very bottom of the dropdown that says has proof. So if you want to look at any task that has proofs in it, this is where you would be able to go. The other option is you can click on find proof here to see a list of all the proofs based on the filters that you want. Yeah. So we have a question about the video proofs. Does the commenting allow you to place a marker on the video timeline playhead exactly where an edit is requested? And this question is from Greg. So video proofs, correct. So what happens is with video proofs, I don't have a video on hand, but what happens is there's a timeline at the bottom here to show which part you are on the video. And if there is a comment, it will have a different color vertical line on it. And think of it like a image snapshot of that video. So for example, this might be what you're seeing on screen here might be a screenshot of the video and the comments at that moment of time in the video. So hope that answers your question there. So next question is, does each approver have a different color assigned to them for their markups? Happy to say this is like the first color coding we have in terms of by the users. So yes, you do. So notice how on the right-hand side for each approver, they do have a different color. Okay, so it is color coded for you. Okay, so this question is from Tyler. Typically, a designer will be tasked to create the first design version. When they complete the design, they would mark the task as completed. Can I still send proofs if they mark the task as complete? The answer is yes, you are able to mark the task as complete and still create a proof on that task. That is not a problem. Great question there. Okay. So another question is when a client logs into the client portal, would the notifications at the top show them outstanding proofs? So the client portal will not actually show the proofs itself. It can show the task and the files associated to the proof, okay, but not the actual proof. The proof will be strictly via the email notifications and reminders. if you do have the client portal module. Okay, there are, you know what, Lucy, I have to admit, there are a lot of questions. I don't believe we're gonna go through all of them in the remaining 5 minutes. I wish I could. But what I can do, what we'll do is we will make sure that your questions are answered. So what happens is if you do have additional questions, please feel free to email us at sales@functionpoint.com or success@functionpoint.com. But like I mentioned, if you want to register for a free trial, please go to our free trial registration page, okay, and just put in your information and we'll be able to activate it, and it'll be activated within 24 hours.
That is great to know that our customers can get a free trial. I know that you were also curious what our customers are doing currently. Well, I'm also curious. Should we launch the final poll, and then that will help close out our show today?
Okay, sure, sounds good. Let's do that.
All right, I'm just going to launch it just to find out, how do you manage your proofs currently? And as we'll just wait for that, we can probably answer one or two more questions. I know there were some more questions around how much, how long, and we did touch on it, how long are all the proofs saved on the server? What happens after 2 years? Do they just go away? Is there anything
They
you can
do
share around that?
disappear into a, yeah, so after 2 years, the proof files will disappear and then into the black hole and the abyss of the internet, unfortunately. So if you do have final design files, I do recommend either storing it as a regular file inside Function Point or on a separate Dropbox, Google Drive, etc.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for answering taking part in the poll. You can see there overwhelmingly the majority here are still on manual email and phone communication. So I hope you do take advantage of the free trial to try it out and see if it helps your team be more efficient with your customers in getting these approvals done. Any final words, Jimmy, for our group here today?
Personally, I'm just excited that we have proofing because this has been asked quite a bit, and the fact that we do support video and audio files is another very big added benefit. But really, I think the key here is you'll be able to, with the proofing tool, you don't need to get out of Function Point or your task management tool to get to another place to get feedback. You really will cut down the number of email communications of he said, she said. I think that's really, really key to why we looked at proofing, and especially in this new virtual world, I think it becomes even more important nowadays. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jimmy. Really appreciate you taking the time to share that with all of our customers today, and everyone that came to join us. We really are grateful that you joined us, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and your week. Thank you all.
All right, thanks, Lucia.
Bye-bye.
Bye.